Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to Abundance 1010. We are in season 2, episode 7. And Matisse and
Seven.
I are grateful to be here. Yeah, 7, imagine. 7, we're moving along here.
We certainly are, and we are happy because we are continuing our discussion on mothering and all the joys and the surprises and everything that comes with it. We're talking about it again. We needed 2 episodes because one
Yeah.
episode certainly was not enough. And if you didn't join us last time, we do encourage you to listen to part 1. But we do have a special guest here today, and her name is Emma. Emma will be joining us for our discussion today.
And
Hey,
there she
Emma.
is.
Hi, ladies.
Hey.
Happy to see you.
So we just want to let the viewers know about you and the listeners know, those who may not have heard part 1. But Emma is a mother, of course. She has 2 children, and she is a woman of faith. And Emma actually has her own YouTube channel called Emma Loves to Talk. And on that channel, she talks about narcissism, and she talks about she gives the awareness for women to be aware of the red flags in an abusive relationship, whether they're dating, married, even friendships, or even the workplace. So she shares that on her channel. So you can certainly check it out. We'll have it in the show notes. But Emma, we welcome you again today.
Thank you, ladies, for having me back in your show. Happy to continue the conversation we had before.
Yes.
It's lovely to have a conversation with you guys. So, yeah, looking forward for a delicious.
Yes.
I love that. Yes, delicious.
A delicious conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. So, where were we, ladies, when we left off? I think we had just started talking about motherhood and some of the discussions that are out there. There's some voices that are of mothers who are expressing their love for their children, but at the same time regretting or mourning the loss of their lifestyle, their life pre-children. And so we were kind of getting into the meat of the discussion when we had to end because of time last week. And so now I think it's great if we can continue that and kind of delve into our own motherhood experience. Like, what do we think about that? Is it possible to love your children but regret having them? What do you ladies think?
I for one, I find it hard to understand that and that position because I don't relate to it, for one. And I find it hard when you love your children, you will do anything for them, but at the same time, if you went back in time, you may not choose to have them. It just seems like an opposite, like 2 very polar opposites of feelings. I've always wanted to be a mother. I love my children. And of course, when you have children, they sometimes weigh on your patience, right? And they bring parts of yourself to the forefront that you may not have known otherwise. So I don't relate to it because I've always wanted to be a mother. And I feel if I didn't have children, there'd be something seriously missing in my life. So I know that there are a lot of inconveniences when you have, especially younger children, and you have to be a lot more hands-on with them. But I don't relate to that sentiment.
Yes, I agree with you, Ametissa. For myself, it's the same thing. I've always seen myself being a mom. I've always seen myself having children. I guess it's something like you said, Matissa, I don't understand, like women that do regret. I mean, sometimes, when I had my firstborn, I have to say that um, when I was pregnant, there was a mourning that I was going through. It's like I was happy to be pregnant, but also a mourning of, being just with, my husband. You know what I mean? Like, and then, being free to go out whenever I wanted to, and then realizing, that after delivering, that it would be the three of us, not only the two of us. But as I grew closer to God, spiritually speaking, there's an aspect of spirituality in it that, okay, I'm gonna go like spiritual in this, okay, and bear with me.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
There are things that it's weird to say this, but sometimes, like the generation before us, they had like unfinished business, to take care of, and they did not, and then
Mm.
you are born to finish that unfinished business in order to break cycles, generational cycles, so that when you have kids, that they don't go through these cycles themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So really, more than having kids, it's also a generational thing. It's like it's blessings to bring blessings to the next generations. So that's why I trust strongly believe that if I didn't have my kids, I think I would have missed my vocation. I would have missed my mission, my life assignment. For me, my ministry is my family, it's my kids. So, by excelling in this ministry as being a mom, then I know that I can excel in every other thing that I'm doing in my life. So to me, it's like, it's a no-brainer. I was called to be a mom, even though, like you said, Matissa, sometimes it makes you go crazy, but at the same time, it makes you
Yeah.
work your own character, but more, to be more understanding, patient, like all the nine fruits of the Holy Spirit. It's
Mm-hmm.
like patient, love, understanding, but it's also building your own character as a person, as a woman of God, as a daughter of God, as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, as a daughter, as a sister. So, yeah,
Mm.
sorry.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's good because I definitely relate to the two of you in that, yeah, being a mother is so much of who I am and who I believe God has called me to be, that I couldn't imagine what life would be like if I didn't have my children. And it's interesting because we've had this conversation with Lisa where we were discussing motherhood and kind of trying to decide whether, is it a role or a job? And maybe
Yeah.
women who are approaching motherhood as a job, maybe there's that negative connotation to it because many people don't like their jobs, right? They work because they have to, but they don't particularly care for their jobs. And so when you look at motherhood as a job, then it then attaches that negative feeling or sentiment that some people may have towards their job, towards motherhood. And yet, I don't believe motherhood is a job, though, because I believe it's more of a role than a job.
Yeah, it's who you are. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's funny because when you think of a job, I think of it's laborious, right? It's something you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
necessarily do. It's obligation. You're doing it out of obligation. You have to do it. So I like you. I don't like when motherhood is categorized like that, like it's a job, because there are so many negative connotations with it. And a job is something people are like, well, like a job is something you don't necessarily want to do. It's something you have to do out of obligation. So I just
Well,
think that I don't like that way of looking at it.
I want to say that for the woman that, how can I say this? As weird as it is, it's like you also have to have some, how can I say this? Like, if it's like if you apply for a job and you've got all the criteria, then somehow that you kind of fit for that job. Like I did not, um, I work in procurement. I have a lot of experience in procurement, but I would not apply for a job in engineering because I know I would not have the credentials.
Qualifications, yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that it's okay for women, okay, that were not called to be mom and to feel that they feel regret, having kids. Because sometimes there are women that they're just not, they follow traditions. They're
Mhm.
okay, I get married, or even if you're not getting married, it's like the family or, the tradition says that you're a woman, you've got to have kids. I guess, this question is no right or wrong answer, because
Mm.
everybody have their own journey and they're walking, everybody have their own cross to bear. So it's really, up to each woman to kind of answer that kind of question. It's just that I do commend, like women that know in their own fibers, that they do not have it to be a mom. As strong, that we did want to have kids, the three of us, there are also women that is the total opposite. They don't want to have kids. And I salute them. I salute them because at the end of the day, if you cannot love, something that you put or a child that you put in life, that's my opinion. Okay, that's my opinion. Then
Mm.
it's best not to. It's just best not to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you raise a good point because you have to have empathy for women who, so many times people do things because it's expected and
Mhm.
figured it was just the next step to take and not necessarily wanting to take that step.
mhm.
Because I know
Yes.
that, and I've read a lot of articles and like, documentaries where women like said, you know what, I got married and I kind of fell into being a mother because that's just what you do. You get married and you have kids. And they found themselves in a situation where, um, yeah, with having deep regret because it's really not something that they wanted um, for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when we look at motherhood and journey as women, like through the ages, and there was a time when being a mother, being a wife and being a mother was a woman, that was the way to secure your future. Because if you were a woman who was unwed or did not have children, then who was going to take care of you, right? So that was, centuries ago, and through the generations, that expectation that, okay, women, that's kind of your contribution or your role in society, to bear the children and bring them. And so you're right, Mathis. I think there are many women who may not have really thought through to say, okay, I really want to be a mother. And they kind of just fell into it. And then in some cases, motherhood may not have looked the way they thought it would look because they started out maybe having all these hopes and dreams, right? So maybe they were married and it was time to have a family. The idea of the family unit maybe fell apart, as was in my case, where, I started out as a married woman and then I had my children. And then years later, I found myself being a single mother. And so things look different for me than I had thought. And so I wonder whether there are women out there who maybe did not expect that to happen. And so as a result, now motherhood is somewhat tainted for them because it's a different experience. They didn't expect to do it alone. So I wonder if there's a portion of the women out there regretting motherhood that fall into those categories.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good point.
I was raised by a single mother, okay, and I saw her doing, having the mom hat and the dad's hat, the mom's hat and the dad's hat, and I saw her sacrificing a lot of things, her time and whatnot, and then so I've seen her doing a lot of things. So when I became a mother, I was kind of this is the model that I had to, to do a lot of things, by myself. So the thing is, again, in today's society, it's like as if, like women are expected to do a lot of things, to be, again, to be the mom and then to be the doctor and then to be the psychologist, the therapist, to be the pharmacist and then to be the career, counselor and then a counselor and then the spiritual guidance and then, the friend, the sister, everything, The thing is, we've put a lot of weight, on our shoulders. And I think this is, like if I were to write a letter, like 20 years ago before I got, my kids, I would just write, like maybe one sentence to say, what, you've got this, mama, you're extraordinary. You're doing a great job. You've doing everything. You're doing it. You're giving the best of you to your kids. So don't sweat the small stuff, and yeah, just enjoy, because we put ourselves last, like very, very often, and we put everyone first. And this is something, I guess maybe it's cultural, Caribbean, anyways, Haitian culture. It's like I said, my mother was a single mother, so she's never put herself first. So I've learned not to put myself first. And as I'm growing into this motherhood. We're a mom until we die, right? But it's really to learn, to deprogram and then reprogram and say, what, putting myself first is not selfish. It's actually very beneficial, not only for me, but for everyone around me. So this is something else I would have wrote in my letter. Emma, put yourself first. Take care of yourself first. Love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, how can you share this love with your kids? So I guess, I think this is what I would write in my letter.
That is good. You brought up a couple of things, and let me first say what I would write for myself. I would say you don't have to be so structured. I do love structure. I do love a good schedule. I love to have my kids on a schedule. Okay, 4 to 5, we're doing this. 6 to 7, we're doing that. 7 to 8. I like to be organized with my time, and I'm getting a bit better with that. But I would tell myself, you don't have to be so structured. Kids sometimes can just let them be for a little bit, and they're going to be okay. But there's something, Emma, that you said that I want to say. I actually don't put myself last.
Okay.
I don't put myself last. No, I do not. I don't. Okay. And the way I do that, I really try, especially when my kids are older. They're getting older now. I try every day to have that time for myself. So an ideal start to the day will be when I wake up and I'm able to have my quiet time, my me time, and my God time on my own by myself before I talk to anyone. So for me, that's putting myself first. I'm not just thinking about every single person ahead of me, because not because I'm selfish. I don't believe I'm a selfish person, but I just feel I need to fill myself up before I give.
Yes.
I have to do that, because then I don't want to be a cranky person. I don't want to be a cranky mom. I don't want to feel like I'm being too short with them. I find when I'm being more impatient with my children, because I have not filled myself up.
Yes.
And it's not them, it's me. So when I put myself and I give myself that time to be on my own, whether I'm reflecting, I'm reading the word, I'm praying, I'm just doing something that I want to do, I'm a lot of better mother to them. So I do not put myself last.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
good.
and I don't think mothers do not put yourself last, because you need to fill yourself up. You need to be the best mother you can be, and you can't do that on an empty tank. So
No.
take away the guilt. If you need to put your feet up for an hour, do that, and there should be no guilt, because you know that your motherhood role is already 24/7. So if you're giving yourself a little bit of a break, do that. No need to feel guilty. Let's throw out the guilt, and let's normalize taking breaks throughout the day. However you need to do something for yourself every day. That's what I have to say to that.
No, that's good.
Yeah. To taking breaks, that's very good advice there, because it's so true. And the guilt part is it's real. I don't necessarily feel it with the time. Like when I take time for myself, I don't feel the guilt, but I feel the guilt mostly when I when I spend money on myself. Like if I take myself out and I do maybe take myself out for some, I don't know, for some breakfast or a brunch or something, or I treat myself to some sweets or something, and I don't buy any for the kids. Sometimes I feel guilty. I'm like, oh man, I've gone out and I had a whole meal and it was so good, and I'm not carrying anything back for the kids.
Not even a crumb.
not even nothing. And I'm hiding all the evidence before I get home. I sometimes feel guilty about that, but I have to remind myself that, listen, so much of my resources are going to these youngsters that I'm raising. You know, so much, like all of the shoes and clothes they outgrow. I spend so much more money on them than on myself. So I constantly have to remind myself, like, hey, you can take yourself out for a meal and enjoy it and not feel bad because you didn't take them along with you.
Okay, absolutely. Can I let me just clarify a little bit of what I said, because when I said, when you think about yourself first, I guess I'm thinking a lot about the time that you take for yourself, because I do find when it comes to money and spending I do spend a lot more for my children than for myself. Generally, I do. But when I think about thinking about yourself as a mother first, for me, in my mind, that really equates to giving yourself the time to do what you want to do. Right? But yeah, I mean, absolutely. A lot of my money goes to my children.
Yeah, it's the same for me too. Like you've been by as a single mother myself too. It's of course like you, Matissa, I spent like a lot of money on my kids, like not having a second salary. So yeah, I spend all of a good portion on my kids. But the thing is, like I have a boyfriend, and he also allows me, to take some me time. So yes, I do have my prayer time, okay. But for me, prayer time is not enough. Like I have to go. Sometimes I need to go to the spa. Sometimes I need to go for a pedicure. Sometimes I need to, just go out of the house, like, because when you're 24/7, or, like, you take care of your kids, like, a lot, then it takes a toll on your emotions. It takes a toll on you psychologically,
The
and the
mental.
whole thing. So when you do have someone in your life, that is very understanding, and when before, like you said, Letizia, before you get to that point of crankiness, or that you like become upset, or because you explode, so this is when I tell him, can you please come and, play with my 7-year old, for example, take him out. Or sometimes he'll take my daughter out as well. So, like, sometimes it feels good because I can breathe, Sometimes it's just a question, like, I can go take a shower, I can cook, I can do some stuff that I love to do, but I don't have to pay attention to, to my kids. And that's very, very, as a single woman, well, as, like, even though I'm not married, but I do have a boyfriend, it's so important to have someone in your life, especially if you don't have family members to help you, that you at least have somebody that can help you just to breathe. Just breathe, like, it's so important to fill up that cup. I totally agree with you, Letizia and Vimbai. It's very important. And like you said, Mumbai, not to feel guilty. For the longest time, I have felt guilty. So I guess it's something, like I said, it's the way probably I was brought up, that taking time for yourself is selfish, and give is the right thing to do. And now, realizing that that's the total opposite. You can't give what you don't have,
Yeah, you can't give what you don't have. Yeah.
It's,
Yeah,
yeah.
very true. I think part of the other thing too is because there's a lot of judgment surrounding, sometimes we judge ourselves. Sometimes it's what the expectations are of what a good mother is, right? And sometimes we're battling against those. And if we feel that because we're time for, and I'm like you, Mathisa, in terms of in the morning, my morning time, I like to protect that the first couple hours of the day before the kids get up, and just get myself right. Because if they come in and I'm still in bed, and you know how kids are, they come with, oh, this and that, oh, I'm hungry, oh, I'm, something or another. And I haven't had that time to
Yeah.
get myself mentally ready for the day, then it's going to be a disaster. It'll be a disaster. So,
Yeah.
it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I find now in
So,
morning stuff like that, for me, it's not good.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
And for me, it's
Yeah.
the same thing. They see me pray, and they know. When mom prays, you don't disturb her. You don't disturb her, and they know that after after I finish praying, that I'm, I smiling, I smile, and I'm happier, and all that. So they see me pray. They see me, with the word. So yeah.
But the thing about motherhood is it's constantly changing. When your children are young, they have different needs, it's more physical
Yeah.
demands on you. But as they grow, I find it's more mental and emotional, and you have to shift and adjust. And mind you, each child is different and needs to be mothered in a different way. Like you may have a child whose love language is affection, right? And so they need a lot of affection, and that's how they're wired and how they operate. And then you have another child who has a different love language, and so you have to constantly learn your children as they grow, and you have to shift accordingly. And I find that to be part of the most challenging parts of motherhood is learning to adjust and parenting differently based on the child and the needs of that child at whatever stage they're in. What about for you ladies?
Yeah, with me, so so my children, they're a lot more independent than they were like 2, 3 years ago. And even my daughter, who is 10 currently, is saying that she wants to get a little part-time gig so she could make money, so she could buy her little knickknacks and things like that. And she asked me yesterday, oh, well, how old were you? When you were my age, how were you getting money? I said, I wasn't really getting money quite like that at your age, but I understand, like, she's starting to grow, she's maturing, she wants some independence. And so I feel like I'm having to keep up with her. Actually, more so probably than my son, because I feel like she's just growing and evolving right before my eyes, and it's happening in my mind very quickly. So I'm just like, wow, like, let me keep up with your development. So I'm just trying to see how I can nourish her budding independence, and just she's growing into a little young lady, a little young teenager, and how I can encourage her own independence.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for me, it's the same as well. Having a teenager, and yeah, for me, it's kind of it's fun, but it's also challenging. Not saying like the little girl that I knew, and now becoming more and more as a young lady as well. She's 17. It's more like it's more, so I'm still disciplining her, but at the same time I'm trying to helping her being more independent as well. And both of my kids are very affectionate, so that is their kind of love style, to be affectionate and huggy and all that. So and because they need so much affection, that's why sometimes it's like it's a lot, it's a lot. But yeah, I guess I'm trying to. I want to. Anyways, I don't know. I just want to say that I guess I'm doing a good job so far. Okay. I think we're all doing a good job. Yeah. Okay, so far.
Yes. We need to pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah, I was gonna say we need to pat ourselves on the back too.
Because it's not easy. Aww.
Aww.
What did you say, Tanya?
There we go. This is what we were talking about. Being a mother is 24/7. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so he's giving you confirmation that you are indeed, Emma, doing a good job.
Doing a good job.
Absolutely.
So especially in today's society, it's not easy. It's not easy to be a mom. Like, I often have this conversation with my mother, and I said, you see, yes, you had your struggles when you were bringing me and my brother up back in 70s, 80s, but having kids in 2000s, oh my gosh, it's like, and then with the different values, with the moral that has gone downwards, and the values and then you keep trying to have this Christian values and moral, and then it's very, very difficult to be a parent, like a Christian parent, anyways, with Christian values in today's society. That I can say that
only by the grace of God we can fulfill our motherly role with grace, because I've always said it's really a privilege to have the opportunity to shape and mold other humans. Like, you're literally shaping and molding them from the time they're young to you see them as they develop into an adult. And just the impact that a mother has on a child's life is immense. It's so immense. So we are grateful for the privilege.